Welcome to Intimate Conversations, where we support you healing heartbreak so that you can live fully embodied, unapologetically, and deliciously free, being exactly who you are. I'd be honored if you'd please subscribe if you haven't yet already, and definitely share us with a dear friend. Okay, you luscious creature, it is time to get intimate. Hello, you delicious people. Welcome back to another intimate episode of Intimate Conversations with a return goddess, the amazing Kristina Mand-Lakhiani. You remember her from before. She's the international speaker and entrepreneur and artist and philanthropist and mother of 2 kids. And I told her before we got on, she's aging backwards and she needs to tell me how. You remember that she's the co-founder of Mind Valley, a leading publisher in the personal growth industry. And Christina dedicated the last 17 years of her career to personal growth. And she started her career in a government office in her native Estonia. And get this, by her mid-20s, she'd achieved a level of success mostly known to male politicians at the end of their careers. And it was shortly after that that she and her husband, Vishen, founded Mind Valley. Now, there's a lot more to tell about Kristina, and you can learn more about her at kristinamand.com. But I want you to know that she's the author of these beautiful transformational quests, 7 Days to Happiness, Live by Your Own Rules. And coming out this April 2023, Becoming FLAWSOME. What a title. I so love this. And in the book, she shares about her own journey from being on top, this personal growth empire like Mind Valley, to stepping aside, consciously uncoupling from her husband and walking her path towards being more honest with herself. And she helps us to go through the process of finding our way back to ourselves, from waking up from the delusion of chasing success, giving up perfectionism, and finding the courage to be completely honest with ourselves. And finally, finding kindness in our hearts to love and accept ourselves unconditionally. And so maybe that's why you look younger. You're being more honest with yourself. So it's probably been about a year since I saw you. Congratulations. And just before we begin, just dropping in, how are you? How are you today? It's your tonight. It's my today.
Well, first of all, a huge thanks for having me again and for this wonderful introduction. It's always such an interesting experience to hear your story told to you, and sometimes you discover it from a new angle. But to the question about looking young, I think it's my unserious T-shirt. I'm wearing a T-shirt with an Eiffel Tower today. Maybe that's what
Oh, that is so very kind of you. But yeah, you're looking radiant. And I really think I want to really dive into this, because for me, everything's energy. We are light, right? And there are these layers to us. At least for me, if I try to hide with a mask, look good, do it right, perfectionism, it's a layer of energy where I'm scoping out, do you like me? Will you reject me? And I think it really is on our face. I really think it is. And then when we peel this back into being our vulnerable, transparent self, we expose our soul, we expose our truth. So I'm saying it looks good on you.
Thank you. Well, if that was the secret, we'd have to make sure that the soul is good to look at, and I think that's much harder sometimes than looking good outwardly, I think. But although if I were to be a little bit more philosophical, I actually do believe that people are beautiful creatures, and some of us are just a little too hurt.
Yeah, thank you. So since we spoke last, this book is coming out, Becoming FLAWSOME. Let's just start with the title. It's awesome. How did you decide on that?
I think it's FLAWSOME. Well, I wrote the book, and its working title was something else. It's now lost in history, the working title. But as I was writing the book, I came across the word FLAWSOME somewhere. I can't even remember where I've heard it, but probably just caught my ear a few times. And then it was an orphan word. I did make a little research trying to make sure that nobody has claimed it yet. Nobody had claimed it at that time, so I adopted it. But yes, the title found the book. The book was there before the title, surprisingly. But I think it's absolutely perfect and confusing enough. I've actually come across people who understand it the reverse to what it actually means, which is interesting. Yeah.
So what is your definition?
I just give a general direction. I don't give it a precise definition because I believe that being flawsome is a unique destination for each person, because the things which might seem flawsome to me might not be flawsome to you. But a general definition would be actually recognizing that you're imperfect and reveling in that recognition. Realizing that your imperfections are actually what makes you valuable to this world, what makes you beautiful. So that's the general description of the word flawsome by me. If you were to verify it with Urban Dictionary, it would give you about 20 different definitions, very different from this one. But for each individual human being, it's a journey to find out your flawsome.
I love this, like our uniqueness, our perfectly imperfect, our wabi-sabi, right?
Yeah.
I love this. And I love also that you talk about finding kindness in our heart to love and accept ourselves unconditionally. To me, that would be embracing our flawsomeness, where it's really easy for me to love it when I'm looking good and successful and lots of money in the bank and having lots of sex or what have you. It's a hell of a lot harder to love myself without condition, unconditionally. When I'm ashamed, scared, when the bank account doesn't look this way, or I'm single, not married, or whatever it is that I've decided is less valuable. So tell us more about your path to help us love ourselves unconditionally.
I think we are all work in progress throughout our lives. So in my case, I still have this dance with self-love, but that doesn't mean that I can't share some of the useful things that I've discovered along the journey. And that's what the book is about. It's not about me at all. It's I believe and I hope that the book is every reader's own personal journey. You just said it very correctly, that it's easier to love yourself when you are successful. It's much harder to not just love yourself when things don't go your way, but actually when you recognize. And I think that's where the secret lies. We think that we need to earn love. And it's so deep in our consciousness that if I am not my best self, then I don't deserve love, that we never even question that paradigm. Can you actually be lovable when you are when you are not your best self, when you are flawed, when you're imperfect? And here I think a lot of people are afraid that if they give themselves love, then they won't become better. And that's the biggest myth. It's exactly because you give yourself love, you give yourself a chance to heal.
Yeah. It's so true. Tell us, if you would, it could be when you chose to uncouple, it could be something else that's happened since we spoke last time, but when was the moment that there you were, flawed, imperfect, and the first maybe reaction was, oh, fix or change, or don't let anyone know, and then you leaned in and then something opened up?
It was a little other way in my case, and I think it's probably the story of a lot of people. I was and I still am a good girl, at least in aspiration. You know how you try so hard to be the good person. So I've been a perfectionist all my life, and ambitious, and as you said, you know, I've made a career really fast. It's not only because I'm special in any way, but actually the circumstances of my country were also such that young people had to make careers. But for people who are not in the context, I was born in Soviet Union. So I was actually doing all the things the way I was supposed to do, living by the book, ticking all the right boxes. And I had a perfectly presentable life, you know, the one which could be modeled, because I had a job which I loved, I traveled the world, husband, children, you know, all that package. And that was the moment when I actually didn't love myself that much, because I suddenly realized that somehow I'm not happy with all that. And the natural question that came, or the logical question that came to my mind was, what's wrong with you? You have everything figured out. What's wrong with you? And that was probably the first experience which led eventually to the book, where I was wondering, why can't I be perfectly happy when I have achieved the things that I thought I needed to achieve for happiness?
Yeah. And what did you first do when you asked yourself that question? Clearly nothing's wrong with you, but that was the portal into,
I have to confess that I feel a little bit uncomfortable telling my own story, because I don't normally tell my story from start to beginning. I usually tell things, and then I use my life as an illustration from time to time. And of course, I got up and I fell down, and maybe my story is not the right path to go, because it wasn't like the path was clear to me. I had to actually fall down over and over again before I started getting it, and lessons just came along the way. And at some point, it all fell into this bigger picture. So if I were to talk to people who are in this position, and that's not my story, I would say that the first thing you need to do is to learn to be comfortable with your discomfort, I guess. That's that's an inevitable part of facing your true self, is that you will be uncomfortable from time to time. But now it's easier said than done. I mean, getting comfortable with your discomfort. And there are some very logical, understandable tools which can help people go through this journey. So I don't even know where to start, but I would say that probably your audience probably knows that the most important skill in any kind of transformation and personal growth is awareness. That's where it all starts. So if you start practicing just asking yourself questions, just noticing the things that happen, if you can put your autopilot on pause and actually start noticing, then that actually is the beginning of everything, of any kind of change. And the only thing I'll add to that is that if you can do it with curiosity rather than judgment, that's going to make a huge difference. But we can keep talking. It's just that I might start reluctantly not telling certain parts of my own experience.
That's okay. You're talking to one of the world's best intimacy experts. And so all I do is reveal vulnerability all day long, every single day. So I'm a different animal than most. I always go right for the personal story. So if there's anything you don't want to answer, I totally acknowledge.
No, I'll tell you why. I'll explain what's the thing. I find sharing experiences from my life, I just don't think they're of much use if they're not put in a certain structure and system to explain why I'm sharing a certain story. For me, a story is not it's not a fictional book, and it's not an adventure book. So it is a story. I think that the biggest value of any personal experience is in it making certain ideas relatable and illustrating certain things. That's when I don't have reservations, and I will tell the things that maybe I wouldn't normally want to tell, but if it serves the purpose, then I will.
Yeah, well, this whole interview is about purpose, and it's about people. So what I find really beautiful is if we just give them information from our head, they just receive it in their head. And we're talking so much more about heart and unconditional love. And so at least for me, what I find is when we can tell a personal story and then reflect upon it with wisdom and then give them a tool, at least for me, when they listen to information just here, it doesn't go in as deeply. They don't feel. They think, but they don't feel. And when we tell stories, then they can feel, oh yeah, that's kind of like me. Oh, then here's the tool. And it's embodied. I'm so committed to the embodiment of consciousness, not just the talking about it. Yeah, I can even have some days where I'm really not feeling my best, and I'll do all my gratitudes. But all I've done is think about my gratitudes. I haven't let them seep into my soul to feel gratitude. Because quite often for me, before I feel the gratitude, there's a layer of something I don't want to feel. Fear or discomfort or what's wrong with me or this. So I just stay up here and do my little cum laude graduate. I'm such a smart little lady. But I find freedom, I find joy, I find deliciousness, I find home when I can love and feel all the way to my core. So I'm wondering if we were to go back to this beautiful life, and you checked all the boxes, and then you said, what's wrong with me? To get to you, to me, you is like in here, not just in here, like body, mind, spirit, right? The whole thing. What was it like? What did you feel? Lost? Judgment? I love the curiosity part. That's way better than judgment for sure. But how did you find maybe a redefinition of success from the inside out versus the outside in? How did you do that?
I actually, contrary to a lot of people's expectations, I define success the way we're used to defining it, and but I insist on doing it so because you know, we always put success and happiness in the same sentence, and we put them together and we talk about them together. And there is a huge temptation to blur the lines. But I think happiness is an important aspect of our human existence. And that's why I insist on keeping success separate from that. So for me, success is still what it was all the time. You know, well, unfortunately, you know, success is that that thing that we keep comparing to the rest of the world. But coming back to your question about how I felt, you know, a lot of years has passed since that day, so I felt all sorts of things, and again, being me means being in the head. That's one of my dragons, but that's also one of my my values, not values, I mean, one of the valuable things that I have to give to the world. So for me, the journey started with asking with the questions, with actually wondering and trying to find answers to why things are not how I'd like them to be, or rather why things are not how I expected them to be when I was in that place.
Yeah.
So I believe my journey was about just staying curious about the experience that I was going through.
Got it. I love your distinction, not to collapse success and happiness. I often talk about not collapsing our worth and our accomplishments. Like our accomplishments will come and go, but our worth is inherent. So I think we're saying something kind of similar.
We you know, I've also noticed that we usually say more similar things than we think, even if occasionally we use different words. But I'm a huge fan of not collapsing meanings, because when we collapse meanings, when we blur the lines, we kind of take away the power from the essence of the word. And while success doesn't need much lobbying, because we've been taught that success is important for thousands of years probably, but happiness does need lobbying. And when we try to redefine success and stick happiness underneath, we kind of mention that happiness is important, but we don't give it the attention that it's worth. That's why I insist on still keeping these two separate. So for me, success is where it was, but what I guess it took me a little longer to realize is that it's okay and it's not selfish to want to be happy. And that is something which is a little bit of a battle for a lot of people. Sorry, my computer just popped up something. I hope it didn't interrupt the connection.
No, we're good. We're good. We just saw your beautiful face even closer. It's all good.
Because my eyesight is not super good. I was like, what is that?
Not to worry. Well, then let's dive deeper into happiness. Did you just say that some people feel guilty about desiring to be happy? Say that line again, you just said?
You know, so having been in personal growth for 20 years, I can, of course, I haven't done research, but I suspect that very few people put happiness on their personal goals list. And it's such a strange phenomenon, because if you think about people that you love the most, and you ask yourself, what would I want for them? Apart from all the decorations that we might want for them, like, I don't know, good career and a happy family, we actually just want them to be happy. Yes. So happiness is definitely an important thing, but we deny ourselves the idea that we might want to have happiness. And there are a lot of reasons why we keep it off our goals list. And one of them is definitely the misunderstanding that if you prioritize happiness, you're never going to achieve it, which is such a funny thing. But in addition to that, I think we have this interesting paradigm that you have to put the world before you, which is both right and wrong. On one side, it does seem strange if you say that my well-being is important to me. But on the other hand, how helpful can you be if you are actually in pain and miserable? And because altruism is one of the ways to cope with your own pain, it is actually in psychology recognized as a very healthy coping strategy. A lot of people kind of get lost in that idea. So, and I think there are a lot of different factors that influence that. But if we even take a step away from happiness, it's even your well-being. We imagine that for example, a proper good entrepreneur puts their business above their own well-being. And if they have to, they will have to put their emotions, their moods, their maybe even exhaustion on the side and do the things that needs to be done. We think the same about good parent, about good mother. A good mother has to give up everything for the benefit, for the well-being of the child. We definitely think that about people who are our heroes. I am not very versed in everyday life in US because I live in Europe, but I am aware that when one of the Olympians from the US team, Simone Biles, I think her family name, I don't know how to pronounce it properly, when she decided not to compete, it was a huge thing because we expect people to even put their well-being on the side when there is a bigger I do not know ideal to be pursued. So this kind of martyrdom. Martyrdom is glorified, and we subscribe to it and we live by it, forgetting one very, very simple rule. Your vessel needs to be in order for you to be able to be of any use to this world. Yeah, I agree. I'm 100% in agreement. So how do we help people to not glorify martyrdom, but choose well-being, choose happiness in the face of what people are going to say, in the face of discomfort, as we said, get comfortable with discomfort? How can we help them? Well, it is a longer discussion. It's rather philosophical, and I think it would require a lot of groundwork before we get there. Because if I were to say that your happiness is of utmost importance, out of context, it sounds kind of strange. But one thing I can say that it doesn't matter what the world thinks. If you pick success over happiness, it's not because the world expects that from you. You might say that, yes, my peers want me to do certain things. For example, my parents want me to pick this career because it's going to pay better, or my family wants me to do this because, whatever. But the truth is that these choices are made by us, not by our peers. And saying that the world is going to look down upon us is just a very, it's a story which makes us feel a little better about our own choices. And here I have to make a little disclaimer that world is big and wide, and there are different circumstances. And having been born in Soviet Union, I know that not every human being who lives on planet Earth has the freedoms that we enjoy in affluent Western countries. So I understand, but if you are a free person, if there is no physical danger to your life and to your freedom, then most likely whatever choices you have made in your life, you've made them yourself, no matter what you tell yourself.
You bring up such a poignant point, Christina. Sometimes I do work with Safe Place International, an LGBTQ plus or a organization, and I have the blessing of being on these Zoom calls, and they're in refugee camps. And I often before the call, like, who am I? What could I provide here? And what we're speaking about is this happiness that is not predicated by circumstances. There's something very pure that I think you're alluding to here. It's a form of gratitude. It's a form of sovereignty. Even in the face of anything, I get to choose my point of view. I get to choose to open or close my heart. I get to choose to connect with another with compassion and listening. And this cultivates a sense of joy, maybe even semantics, happiness versus joy. I've been very joyful at a funeral, but I wasn't happy. And maybe it's just a use of language here, but there's something very rich that has nothing to do with circumstances, that lives inside our being, because we get to be alive, we get to be present, we get to be aware, we get to love, we get to choose. And so when I'm done with those calls where many people are in refugee camps, etc., the joy, the aliveness, the gratitude that we all came together is such a humbling gift to me, to let go of my, as you said here, my chasing, my perfectionism, and just drop into the very, very simple things that I can be grateful for and experience an embodiment of happiness.
You know, Viktor Frankl actually insisted that even in concentration camps, you still had a choice. Of course, our choices are maybe limited in terms of logistics. You know, if you live, say, in Asia, and I've spent 16 years in Asia, you might have objective reasons that why you can't choose, for example, a career, but you still get to choose. You know, you get to choose your attitude to your circumstances. That for sure. And of course, I probably wouldn't do justice to Viktor Frankl's work, but his point was that it's still, even in the most desperate situation, there is still a choice for you, how you're going to live out whatever is given to you to live out. And by the way, I have worked with refugees in Asia as well, and I can tell you that once they're in the camps, they're actually in a good place. So if you feel horrible for them being in the camps, you can imagine that to leave everything behind, your home, everything what's dear to you, and end up in these kind of circumstances, we are not very often we are not aware of how much bigger the world is and how many more people are out there, and we forget the big picture. But with that said, you still have to make sure that you are happy. And I would rather see people go out and help other people out of a good place rather than to forget their own pain.
Yeah. Oh, that's also very beautifully said. Let's go there for a second, because in this journey, we say here, from waking up from the delusion of chasing success, perfectionism, we've spoken about that, courage to be completely honest with yourself. Often we'll push our own pain away and not be honest with ourselves and go out and help others, which still is still is a contribution, but we haven't slowed down to feel and face what it takes to really be honest with ourselves. Courage, la cour, the heart is open to do this. So share a little more about how one is courageous and completely honest with themselves.
You know, I laughed out of my own personal trauma because it's so true. I mean, that part of my bio doesn't get read out very often, but I did spend a lot of time in doing philanthropy and charity with all sorts of organizations, and it is so true. Often we run away from our own pain into trying to help others. And I have a very probably poignant example from fairly recent history. Last year, a little. At this point, when we're recording, a little less than a year ago, the war erupted close to my home. So Russia attacked Ukraine very violently, and because I'm in Estonia, which is so close to where it was happening, and of course we felt horrible stress and fear that will be the next ones, or that it will be just. I mean, it was a terrible time. And it was so hard to cope with it that I started looking for ways to help anyone I could find who needed help. And at some point I realized I was just driving around the town trying to carry things from one person to another just to help refugees from Ukraine to cope with their everyday life. And then, of course, I had to face the truth. What I was doing is I was running away from the pain of dealing with the situation. And there are more productive ways of helping people than to just keep yourself busy so that you don't think about things that scare you. So we, and having worked in charity for many years, I know that's a pattern that unfortunately is very obvious there. But with that said, I don't want to judge people for their motivation to go and help. Sure. Any motivation works. Honestly, like, just help. It doesn't matter what. Even if you help just to take a picture and put it up on Instagram, it doesn't matter. Help. It's good. But a world would be a better place if we took care of our own well-being. And here, maybe I'll share a story from before. That was, God, I don't remember now, more than 10 years ago. But in the days when I was still working with the refugees in Asia, and as we were talking just recently, it's these people have lost so much. It's really a lot of pain on a daily basis that you see them. They would have lost their loved ones, their families, their homes, all their possessions, everything, the meaning of life very often. And the worst thing, losing everything is not as scary as not having any hope for the future. And that was probably the scariest part about refugees in Asia, because they were stateless, they were not needed by anyone, and they had no hopes of ever changing that situation. And parallel to that, we were building Mindvalley, working with some of the world's best authors, teaching how to be happy, how to live meaningful, successful, extraordinary lives. So on a daily basis, I had this contradiction, you know, misery and extraordinary lives. And then, sorry, Vishen, we were still married at that time. He was speaking at some event with Dali Lama, and we had a private audience with him. And I asked him that question. I said, it just doesn't, these two worlds, they just don't merge. How do I combine these two parallel universes in one life? And his answer was very simple. He said, Christina, you can't help anyone if you're not happy. And it's, until this day, you know, every time when I hear people feeling that their obligation is to first put the world, and then maybe if they have a chance to think about themselves, I always wish I could pass this permission from such a wonderful human being over to everyone else.
Yeah, I don't know why. I've heard you tell me this before. But it's really touching me right now in this moment. We can't help anyone unless, you know, we're happy ourselves. Maybe one of the reasons is, since we talked last time, I'm very similar to you with the philanthropic. So my career is always about helping all my clients, helping my community, helping my customers. And when I really slowed down over this last year, since we spoke last, our last interview was actually when I was living with my past relationship, but it ended in criminal assault and his arrest. And I was so ashamed that someone as making a difference like me, helping people with their intimate relationships, their self-esteem, all the rest of it, I was so ashamed that I had attracted this in my own life. I didn't tell anybody whatsoever. And over this past year, I've done different protocols than I've ever done before, using psychedelic medicine to soften my secondary consciousness, my very brilliant mind, to help me get into my primary consciousness, my body. And what I discovered was there was a hypervigilance of a trauma since a little girl that just kept me going and going to find the next abuser to survive. And in the meantime, great success and graduating from a great university and authoring 6 books and all the things that I do to make a difference. But underneath it all was this panic and this fear and hypervigilance to find someone to survive. And so what I saw was a figure 8 that wasn't this beautiful 0-point infinity symbol. It was way off balance, giving about 80, taking about 20. Because if I was too shiny and too bright, that's what I had made it mean, created the abuse before. Just stay small, don't say anything, be depleted. So for me, it's taken great courage to shine and show up for myself and to balance this out with this what you just said, you can't help anyone unless you're happy. And then on one hand, it's a deservability, but I'd say way more, it's a safety for me to actually rest and feel happy. And it's a safety thing for me.
Mhm.
I'm rewiring my ANS nervous system so I can be that fullness to serve others, perhaps better than I ever have before. So,
And it also, you know, it also requires honesty, because we just got stuck in altruism, because that was that was the topic that surfaced. But a lot of people, and I said, a lot of people go into helping others from their own pain, but a lot of people go into being busy in business from their own pain, or going into sports or wellness to the point where they forget the real life. You know, John Welwood is the guy who coined the term spiritual bypassing. The thing is that not everything is a spiritual bypassing, but all of those behaviors are bypassing. That's why I'm saying it requires courage.
yes.
It requires courage, because for you to stop and say, look, what am I running away from? It's like when I was driving, as I said, last year around the city, I just thought, okay, you have to stop running.
Yes.
Can you face that dragon from which you are running? And that's why it's so tempting to keep yourself busy doing the good things, because you say, but I'm doing good things.
Yeah.
That's such a good story, but I'm doing such good things. I have moral responsibility to keep doing them. No, you're just lying to yourself. It's a story that you're enjoying. It makes you feel better. That's what we do.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I just want to jump through Zoom and hug you right now. Facing the dragon, I discovered, was a shorter period of discomfort than I thought. Other side of feeling, you can't think your way to face a dragon. You have to feel it in your body. I gained awareness that my body knew how to come back to still point. If I would allow and surrender and feel, it knew how to come back. And not only that, it left these gems of awareness and wisdom that were not just cognitive analysis. It was something deeper inside of my being. Tell us about how you face these dragons.
Well, contrary to popular belief, I am very much in my head, and that's probably one of the dragons, considering which industry I'm from. I think there's a process to get to being at peace with your dragons, and it requires a few steps along the way. And one of them is honesty. Honesty, of course, it requires courage, but it also requires honesty and kindness. But as you said, you know, that period of discomfort is not as long, because if we were, I'm trying to come up right now with an analogy to be clear. If you have a dragon living in the basement of your house, and it's making this scary noises, you know, until you take the flashlight, go down there, look at it, see what it is, it's this eerie feeling. What is this? What is this roaring from down there? Is it a dragon? Is that a demon? Is that whatever? What is it? So, and that's the thing with running away from your problems. It's going to be always there, making these horrible noises, and you don't know what it is. So, while looking in the eyes of the dragon may be scary, but certainty or knowledge is usually less scary than uncertainty about the situation. So the truth doesn't change because you know it. The dragon is there. So just because you know who that dragon is, it doesn't change anything. The only difference is that before maybe you were just sticking your head in the sand and pretending that it's not there. And that's what a lot of us do, especially in our industry in personal growth and transformation. It gives us all those things to keep us busy and feel good about ourselves.
Go ahead.
And yeah, and really you just have to be kind to yourself. And here it's important to understand that that you deserve love, not because you are good and perfect and doing the right things, but just because
Just because you
You,
know the sentence.
just because you deserve your own love. If you deserve anybody's love, it's your own. And you're the only person whose love you can reasonably expect.
Yeah, it's so true. As I went through all of this healing this last year, I forgave myself. I said, oh, this is the reason I've been attracting these different situations. The top of the iceberg was looking for a healthy relationship, but the huge iceberg of my subconscious and all of that energy and the trauma patterns, those were going to look for trauma bonding. And so once I've healed these, I can now forgive myself, kindness, and cradle myself and soothe myself, have empathy for myself. And it's truly an embodied experience that I've never had before. My worth was very external. And now there is an internal union that no one and no circumstance can, not that I'm perfect, but can take away. And this is my practice. This is my practice.
You know, I've noticed one of the reasons why people are afraid of unconditional self-love is they believe that being critical of yourself is a precondition of growth and transformation. That's such a huge misunderstanding. We're just brought up in this environment, and it's not contemporary world. It's been like this, I think, as long as humanity has existed, that we need to deserve love of everyone around us, except when we are babies, when we don't do anything to deserve love. But the moment when we start taking any kind of decisions, even small decisions, we are expected to behave in a certain way. And if we behave in that way, everybody around us is nice and sweet. And then if we do something which we were told not to do, then usually very well-meaning caretakers, in attempting to teach a kid a lesson, make a show of, okay, I don't love you quite the same way right now. When you're good, then I do. But when you're not good, you know, mommy is angry. And very often, because we are not very versed with emotions, and of course, children don't understand the world maybe quite as clearly as the grown-ups, that seems like a reasonable punishment. Yeah. And that's such a scary thing. So when people grow up, they grow up remembering that to be loved, I have to be good. And that's why we start teaching ourselves when we grow up that failure is okay. Of course it is okay, but that's not how we were brought up. And this paradigm that you have to be self-critical, because if you're not, then you won't grow. It's a huge burden on humanity. Again, it's a very big topic to get into, but I just as a suggestion, little children grow and develop just as well on encouragement. They don't need to be scared. The fear-based progress creates a lot of waste material, a lot of broken people, a lot of trauma. There is a different model. We might not be very used to it. We might not see a lot of examples of huge success from that, but there is a different model, which is not fear-based, which is encouragement-based.
Yeah, I love this. Until I stopped criticizing, I call it the 2x4 across the head. Until I stopped criticizing myself, I was motivated from fear of losing love, or fear of being hurt or attacked or rejected. And then when I stopped abusing myself and sat with that, there was an inspiration from love to take what may look like from the outside the very same action, but the one inspired by love as opposed to motivated from fear is a completely different experience in the moment, on the path. And I even named one of my companies Celebrate the Process, not Celebrate the Goal, to remind myself every single day of going to work, no, we're going to savor this moment. This moment is enough. I am enough. And inspired by love, by creativity, by joy, by contribution, as opposed to motivated from fear. So I love this new model, growth through encouragement. It's probably getting late on the other side of the planet, so I'm aware of the time. I love talking to you. We could do this for another hour, but I want to just...
It's a night somewhere and it's a morning somewhere as well.
Right? It is. Yes. Thank you for staying so present and so
oh, no, it's fine.
inspiring with us here. So we've gone through this myth that, you know, I need to, if I love myself, I won't become better. Or if I encourage myself, I won't become better. So we're breaking this apart today. We're speaking of curiosity versus judgment. Happiness is different than success, or I would say our worth and our accomplishments are different. We had some talk about altruism, and we want everyone to help each other, definitely. And just slow down and see the motivation, and be sure to care for yourself as much as you're caring for others. Be honest with yourself, fill up your own. You can't help anyone unless you are happy yourself. And so we want to be sure that people go to your site, which is your name, KristinaMand.com, to get on that list, to be sure that you get the pre-order for her newest book, Becoming FLAWSOME. So just as we be
It's
together,
actually, you can already pre-order the book. There's no need to wait for anything. You can pre-order the book, and it actually comes with my program on self-love, which I've recorded to accompany the book, because I knew that we'll open pre-orders soon. I mean, long in advance. So I know it's such a drag to wait for something to arrive. So there's a program to make the waiting better.
happiness. So it'll keep you happy with a happiness program. That's perfect.
It's 10 questions on self-love. So it focuses on self-love. Yeah.
I love this. I love this. So as we complete this conversation, I like how we just sort of touch base every year and check in and support each other. I do love this. What has been the greatest that you've slowed down to be honest with yourself? What are you most grateful for that you've discovered is your honest truth as we complete this conversation?
These are, I mean, the beginning of the sentence immediately gave me the answer. The things I'm most grateful for are my children, of course. It's, I can't even imagine. It's just such a different level of enjoyment. But about myself, what I'm grateful for, what am I grateful for the most? I think, God, there are so many things I'm grateful for. I don't know where to start.
A lot more than one. Yeah.
I do not know. It's like the whole package, everything. What was maybe liberating to accept about me was, God, it's been such a journey. There's always something to accept, but probably just to accept the quirkiness and you know what, that I know how I'll answer that question. It's the balance between being yourself and listening to what the world wants from you. And that was something which I learned in the process of editing the book, because the manuscript was written, and then I had to go over the publisher, the whole long editing process, and there's marketing and everything. And when other people come into play, there's always this dynamics of, you know, you have to do certain things to be successful, and you are supposed not to do certain things. So that dance between being true to myself and following a path to success the way it's determined by society, that has been probably one of the most interesting journeys lately, because why I'm saying it's a balance is because if you stay completely true to yourself and very obstinately true to yourself, and you say, this is how I am and I'm not going to compromise on that, you're actually in danger of not being heard, not being understood, not being not having enough voice to make any difference or to have any meaning. But then if you follow whatever the world tells you, that, you know, if you want to have the best-selling book, that's what you need to do. If you want to make, you know, have a huge following on Instagram, this is how you have to do. And there are all those people who come and tell you, this is how you have to do. This is how you speak. This is how you write. This is how you, we have rules for everything. But then if you follow these rules to the last dot, you sometimes feel like you're selling your soul to the devil. So there is no right answer whether you should go that way or the other way. It is the dance. It's a balance, and that's probably the most exciting and curious discovery of the past year for me. How do I balance staying true to myself and still being relevant?
I love this. This is a beautiful way to complete, because what Kristina's just showed us is really what it is to have an intimate relationship. Because in a relationship, you want to be able to influence one another in a way that brings out the best of one another. If you just stay there and it's my way or the highway, or you completely lose yourself in a relationship, that's not going to go well either. So she's showing us a personal way with her book that this happens. And I would also say this happens with the divine. We show up and then the divine says a little to the left. And we said, okay, maybe we'll stomp our feet a little bit, and then we're open and we keep growing in this beautiful communion with the divine as we evolve as humans as well. So I love that we are ending on this so that we continue to keep dancing. We continue to keep dancing. Yeah. Okay. So yes. So please get your pre-order and have that wonderful happiness course. And then lastly, when you're done, I'd love you to subscribe and leave a review. It helps the algorithm so that more people can hear this very important conversation. Why? Because this conversation could literally change the trajectory of your life. There's just one little spark. Take a moment after this interview is over and sit with that and allow yourself to take an action in alignment with what is birthing through you from this conversation, so that we can all be like that ship where we just turn 1 degree, but by the end we've ended up in a whole new world because we took the time to slow down and listen. So we love you here at Intimate Conversations. Thank you so much for being with us today, Kristina. It's great to see you again. And thank all of you. I love you with all my heart.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us for another edgy, transparent episode. I invite you to dive deeper with our intimacy blind spot assessment found at alanapratt.com, so you can stop unknowingly repelling the very love, intimacy, and connection you desire. Thank you for being who you are. I love the shit out of you. So until next time, I've got your back.